All right, class. Good evening. Let's see. We'll go over lesson two: if statements, if else statements, comparing strings, logical operators, and Boolean variables. So Boolean variables are true or false. Logical operators, those are your comparison operators too, like comparison operators like equal to, greater than, less than, is equal to or greater, is less than or equal to. Um, Not, or, and, all kinds of fun stuff. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So I should be sharing my screen. Everyone can see this. This is lesson two. Now, in the announcements, I have graded all lesson one. A lot of folks didn't read the announcements and they missed key points. This is a scripting fundamentals class, Python. Do not turn in a PDF or document. I want Py files. That should be, I think that's in the syllabus. And then when you email me, you have to send me a .txt file because Outlook 365 sees Py files as a security issue and it removes them. So just be aware of when you email me, send a .txt file. That's in the announcements. When you post your code to Blackboard, post your files, not just your code. You know, people have to cut and paste that and then run it. And when you cut and paste, things go wrong. The more you move strings, the more things go wrong. So do your fellow students a favor and just upload your .py files, right? It saves everybody a headache. And plus, double file extensions. Some folks are turning it in py.py or py.docx or something. Don't do that. You're at a 200 level course. You know, most people touch a computer for more than 2 years. You should know better, right? Especially most of you are going into either cybersecurity or some type of IT related field. It's important that you know what file extensions are, how they're used, what they're used for, and why they exist. So just be mindful and use the header and template that I put in the announcements as well. You know, the file name is important. Most you're going to work with teams or on teams. And when you work with teams and you share files or update files, you work on programs, there's going to be a naming standard. There's going to be a naming convention. You know, it's important that you understand what a naming convention is now. Our naming convention is 2252 underscore first initial last name lesson 01 intlab.py, right? That's an example of one. Yeah, it's lengthy. Guess what? You can use lengthy names. Lab 1. I had 15 people turn in Lab 1. Does that help? No. Can you tell who it's from? No. They're all named Lab 1 or Brownie. You know, don't do that. In a professional environment, you're not going to do that. For yourself, if you make good habits of saving files, scripts you write this year, you'll use again 4 years from now. Trust me, I wrote 250 scripts in 2016, and I've been using those same scripts forever. I've been augmenting them, changing them, you know, as needed, variables or whatever. But that's the base of my code are these. 1 year, I just pumped out a bunch of scripts, and I use them all the time. I still write new code every day, but a majority of it comes from my baselines, right? Let's see what else. Comments. You don't have to comment on a print string. You know, the function print actually tells the reader of the code what it's going to do. It's going to print something. You know, go ahead and, you know, comment the why. Well, you don't have to comment every line either or every block of code. Just things that are tricky or things that you want to get. If you use special logic and you want to make sure people understand it, put a comment and go, I chose to do this for loop because it performs this function. Short and sweet, you know. If you feel like it has to be a long explanation, then you're probably doing it wrong. You know, one of the beautiful things about Python is within the shell or anywhere really, you can import this. And this is a little Zen of Python by Tim Peters. We probably won't get past probably line 9 in here. but beautiful is better than ugly. Explicit is better than implicit. Simple is better than complex. Complex is better than complicated. Flat is better than nested. I know a lot of you are going to get angry at that. Sparse is better than dense. Readability counts. Just if you write your code and type import this and read those first couple lines, if your code doesn't fit that, chances are you could do it better. You know, clear it up, remove some things, maybe use different logic. If you nest more than 3 times, don't do it, or you're doing it wrong. You can nest as many times as you want. We'll talk about that today, but it just looks sloppy, right? Well, let's get into it without further ado, right? Let's talk about if-else statements. So if-else statements, power of logic, right? So let me slide this over here. That's better. So if, elif, else. A bunch of you are going to turn in stuff that says if. Not cool. I'll tell you why. So in this code, we set the number num equals -50. So if you read your code out loud, if -50 is equal to 0, false. If -50 greater than 0, false. Else, print negative number. Now, if we change this to 0, if num equals 0, true, print 0, done. Python quits. Python goes down here and waits. It's done. It doesn't even hit the elif or else statements. It's always good practice to end with an else statement. And it makes sense. If these were all if statements, Python would have had to do all of them. It would say if number equals 0, true, print 0. If number equal or greater than 0, false. Else, well, it wouldn't be else, it would be if. If number is less than 0, false. You do those checks anyway. Unnecessary. If, elif, else. You can do as many else as you want for whatever type of program you're running. Think of it this way. What if you're looking for a username and they had Smith as the last name? If username equals Smith, rock and roll, right? Do this. And you had 10,000 usernames just in the number S, right? Think of that these Active Directory structures exist. Could you get more explicit? Yes. You could say if username starts with SM, do this. So now you get an SM. If, elif, else statements are insanely powerful. You can couple them together with and or, and I'll show you how to do that. And it's also in your reading. But this simple logic test, it could do anything, really. If a file exists, if a directory exists, it could check all that. String comparisons, integer values like we're doing here. So let's just run this, right? I'll hit Control-S, save it. I'll hit F5, and here we have 0, right? Because if 0 equals 0, print 0, done. Let's go -5, save F5. If -5 equals 0, false. If -5, elif -5 greater than 0, false, it's going to print negative number. So awesome. Let's just make it 5, right? Control-S, F5, and now we have positive. If 5 equals 0 is false. elif 5 greater than 0, true, print positive, and we have that, right? Now, over here, we could say 1 is equal to true, and we get true. We could type in true. You notice it's orange. It's a keyword. It's a Boolean value. 1 equals true, and 0 is equal to false. You could use this, and we get a true there, because 0 is indeed false. So you could use these to your advantage. You could turn things that you ask users into Boolean values, true or false, 1 or 2. But basically what happens here on this left side is if 5 is equal to 0, false. It does not go past this colon and complete this subtask of print. It goes to the next workable line that's left justified until it finds one that's true or an else. elif 5 greater than 0, true, prints positive. Awesome. Let's see what else we got. Got this joker here. We'll do this one. So it's a little bit different, I think. Yeah, so here we have a nested variable, kind of wrecks everything. We have x, please input an integer. Well, no matter what, x is going to get overwritten to 0. If x is less than 0, x will equal 0. Now, this is just an example, right? Save F5, please enter an integer. So if x is less than, I'll put -4, hit enter, negative change to 0. So this is a way that you could catch a certain input, change it, and then print out or take action on why you change it to 0, right? That's one cool way to do it. Do you necessarily need to do this in all your scripts? No, but it's available. The logic is there. You can get as tricky as you want with it, right? So if I print, if we do 50, it'll say more, right? And let's follow the logic here. 50 less than 0, false. 50 equals 0, false. 50 equals 1, false. Must be more, right? So that's the logic there. If else statements are indeed awesome. And you could do things like, well, string comparisons are pretty easy, right? Because you could do t is equal to t, and you get back a true, right? So kind of important. I know some of you are going to start to use ord and char, and those have no place in this class. I'll tell you right now, but someone will use them anyway. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Let's see what else we got here. Here's an OR test. This is kind of cool, right? So now we're saying x is -3. So we can say if x is greater than 3 or x is less than 10, print true, else false. Well, greater than 10. So now we're looking for a number between 0 and less than 10. Well, -3 is less than 10, right? So it's going to be true. Now, how can we make this false? Less than 10, if we make this 30. 30 is greater than 0. Well, that's going to be true. So or means one of these comparison operators has to be correct. Just one. Now, if we change this to and, now both of them have to be correct in order for it to be true, for the statement to be true. At 30 greater than 0, true, and 30 less than 10, false. This is going to be false, and else is going to fire. Cool. So that's the difference between and or. Or is only one of the comparison operators has to be correct. Or is one has to be correct, and is both have to be correct in order for it to be true. So right here, if I said, if I say 0, what would happen? Well, 0 is less than 10, right? But is it greater than 0? No, it's not, because it's equal to 0. So if we did 1, and now we get true, because 1 is greater than 0, and 1 is less than 10. Both of those are met. Both conditions are met. So then your print statement is true. Pretty cool. That'll come in handy when we're doing a group exercise. Let's see what else we got here. If else statements, Boolean operators, or tests. I think we do or tests. Yeah. That's pretty much it. This is a longer test, like using if and else. There we go. So this tests the type of the object, which is pretty cool, right? Sometimes you get things back from, oh, you don't see the, maybe you do see it. I don't know. I don't see it in my second screen. It says elif, else, right? So Tim is a string, and we save it in var1, and we check the type, and then we say, is the type of my object equal to integer, a float, complex, Boolean, string, true, should print a string, tuple, dictionary, list, etc. Right? Let's see if this works. Yep. So that's a string. Now, of course, if I put 5 in between here, or 500, that's a string as well, because we have it in quotes. If I remove the quotes, that should be an integer. Sure is. So 500 var type int equals int, done. Python never executes any of these. When this is true, it fires the print and it's done with that script block. It's very efficient. If these were all ifs, it would perform every single one, wasting time and CPU cycles, right? Now you have a float, all kinds of good stuff. So this is just another example. And there's tons of fun comparison operators where I looked at less than, equal to, greater than, or, and. Let's take a look at I guess we could do as a group exercise now. Let's see, anybody else join the meeting? I heard a noise. Nope. All right, cool, no worries. So I'll do file new over here. Could use the template, but oh man, that got really squishy. I'll put that right there. Perfect. Let's go check this out. Let's see, course material, course lessons, lesson 2. Got the reading, got group activities, got the drams and gills, and then you got the color mixer, which is and we also talk about the dot lower method here for a string, which we'll learn in lesson 5, I believe. But dot lower takes the a string value and makes it all lowercase. So that's very helpful when you're dealing with people's input and you don't know how they type. You can change it all. Well, let's take a look at this. So we got red and blue, get purple. So what are we supposed to do here? What makes primary colors red, blue, create secondary colors? Design a program which prompts the user to enter 2 primary colors. And if they enter anything other than red, blue, or yellow, the program should display an error message. Okay, cool. If they enter 2 of the same color, an error message should display as well. Okay. Sounds pretty cut and dry, right? So here you have your header, right? Which has your file name, the purpose, the date, and the author. By the way, I'm not your author. Some of you turn in scripts with my name in it. I'm glad you used, I do have someone in the waiting room. There we go. Good afternoon. We're well underway. We're about to do the group exercise. It's just us, so paste that there, do that. So we have to ask the user for 2 primary colors, right? But the beauty of this is we're not just going to come out and ask them. We're going to tell them the directions first. We're going to tell them, welcome to the color mixer. You get to mix red, blue, and green, or red, blue, and yellow to make colors. please select 2 colors, right? So let's start off with the print statement. You can do whatever type of print statement you want, print F strings or whatever. I'm going to say, welcome to the color mixer. And we'll slap a couple new lines in there. And I'll do print. I'll say you will pick 2 colors, 2 different colors, from red, blue, and yellow. And now we could do color 1. We'll just do C1. Yeah, it's fine. C1 equals. And of course, we could do input. Default for input is a string, so that's fine. Please enter your first color. Is that about right? Yeah. Just cut and paste this, change to C2. Change first to second. So now we have our 2 colors. Save it. I'll save it as 2252 underscore my name. Gotta spell it right. Underscore group lab. Let me do lesson 02 underscore. Cool. Saved it. Hit F5. Over the color mixer. Got the rules set up. You can make those look pretty or make them however you want. We'll do red and blue. Perfect. A couple things here though. So it's going to be a string. They're going to enter it probably all caps. You can just say dot lower, right? So what's that going to do? Print. You have selected. I'll do F string here in a minute. C1 and C2. Oh, what happened? You have selected. What happened there? Boom, 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 boom. Anybody know what lower needs? Needs these guys. Pretty common. Because it's a method. So methods are nothing more than functions of a class. You're going to hear me say that countless times throughout the next weeks. Methods are nothing more than a function of a class. A class is a type of object. So string dot lower is a function in the string class, also called a method. So now you notice, let me rerun that. My bad, hit the wrong button. Boop. And then we type in all caps red and all caps blue. And now you notice that it's lower, red and blue. Usually I do not mess with the original input. I'll change lower afterwards. So what I usually do is C1L for C1 lower, and I'll put equals C1 dot lower, and I'll get rid of this. You never know when you're going to need the original variable, right? Or the original input. Sometimes you need to go back to it in code. Sometimes you don't, right? But now C2 dot lower and lower. Let's run that again. Let me be on the right screen. Red, blue. Oh, what happened here? I put C11. I meant L. Look the same, right? Red. Do caps blue. Red and blue. Cool. So we're in business, right? We have our originals still. C1, C2. Now we have C1, C2, L, which just has them lower, got a nice print. Now it's time to mix the colors. So if we start thinking about mixing colors, we flip over to this. So it's just a bunch of if-else statements, right? So you could say if C1L is equal to red. Okay, that's a start, right? Well, we need an and here, right? Because we're mixing two colors. And C2L is equal to blue. I have a hard time typing that. Blue, then print, and I'm just going to do mine real quick and easy here, but you could do yours, whatever. You made purple, right? Well, that's one way to mix it. Now, instead of writing another line of logic, you could throw an or statement in here and flip these. So now, if C1 is red and C2 is blue, or C1 is blue and C2 is red, you made purple. Pretty cool, right? Got an if statement, is good. Let's save it. F5, let's test it. Let's test it with blue for C1 and all caps red. Well, all caps red gets changed to lower. We made purple. That worked out perfect. Instead of doing that, we can copy this, go down to our next color. And red and yellow. And then I'll make orange. And say yellow, right? Yellow and red make orange. And change that from an if to a elif. And then we got a couple more elifs, right? You could do what's the last one? Red, blue, 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 green. What's the green one? Yellow, yellow and blue. Now we're not done. You think you would, remember? But we have to catch, and if C1 is equal to C2, if they're the same. Please select two different colors. All right, that's good. And what was the other one? If they were the same, or if they're not any of them, right? Well, we already did your red, blue checks, your orange and yellow checks, your green check up here, and these. Could you just do an else then? And then print the colors you selected are incorrect. We'll test that first, right? Hit save, hit F5. I'll say pink and white. And there we go. The colors you selected are incorrect. That works. Cool. Let's run it again. Let's do red and red. I please select two different colors, so that logic works. And in theory, the rest of them should work as well. So we have our if, our elif, our elif, our else. We got to check to see if they're equal. We got to check to see if they're not in the list. I'm happy with this. I mean, we can always go back and clean it up a little bit. But this is, leveraging if, elif, and else. Could use a while loop, maybe. I don't use while loops at all. Some new languages don't even have a while loop construct, like Go. But we can cover that next week. I'll dive into some while loops and some for loops before we dive into it. But this lesson is pretty fun because it allows you to do more logic. Now, I know you're thinking like, oh, it's a color mixer, it's drams and gills, and this is a ticket for a roller coaster. But think of it if you are building user accounts. If the user is located in DC and their name starts with this, or their name is this, or their zip code is this and this, you could build any type of object or create anything you want here. And these comparison operators allow you to validate what type of object you're working with. And perhaps let's just say if this was colors red for a car and the model's an Audi, or the make is an Audi and the model is a Q5, right? Could you then pull a new price from a database and show the user the hybrid and non-hybrid costs? Totally. So with a little bit of logic change and an API call to a database, think about when you go look at cars online, it lists the make and model and everything. As you click on them, it sorts them out for you. That's kind of cool. Underneath the hood, it's just doing API calls to a database and presenting what's available. It's not really that intense, not much different from what we're doing now. But that's basically it for today's lesson. It's a lot to unpack. We talked about the lower method of a string object. We talk about and or, and here we're using them both. We talked about comparison operators, equal to, greater than, less than, is equal to, is greater than, less than, all that fun stuff. If, elif, else, those are pretty important. It's good practice to always end with an else, even if you think you don't need one. It is good practice to put an else statement in there. If you find yourself using if, you're doing it wrong. I know right next to your line of code where it says if, then an else seems overdoing it, but it's not. You're saving yourself from future problems. You can elif as many times as you want. Oh, you can nest this stuff too, right? So let's talk about nesting it. So let's say if we made purple and we want to do something if they made purple, say you win a prize or something, right? So you could say now print you made purple, and we could say new color is equal to purple. And then you could do if new color is equal to purple. This is just me showing you a nest example. Then you could do print you have won the secret color mixer prize. I don't know, right? But that's a nested if statement. Now right here, I'll do an else, even though technically it couldn't be anything other than purple because I hard-coded it purple. If this is true or this is true, it's going to be purple. But else, you could always print or catch an error. And for now, we'll just print. And we'll just say something went wrong, which should never happen, right? But it's there in case something does go wrong. So that's a nested if-else statement. All right, we'll get that going right now. So save F5, red, blue, and now we made purple, and we've run the secret color mixer prize. So that's how nested ifs work, right? Now, if you nest them more than 3 times, your code gets hard to read. Excuse me, it gets hard to read on one screen. Believe it or not, back in the day, monitors weren't as big or robust as they are today. So if you nested this again, just hypothetically, if you nested this over here, Let me close that again. I messed up. If you nested it again right here, of course it jacked it all up. You see that it gets kind of sloppy to read. If. And old school screens would cut some of this off if the logic was long. So one thing I want to show you is PEP 8. And you're like, what's PEP 8? And I'm like, yeah, I know. PEP is a Python engineering proposal 8, and PEP 8 is a style guide. So if you go over this and read it, it's pretty short off to the side. The PEP 8 is a style guide for writing Python. So it talks about the code layout, why indentation matters, the 4 space rule, no extra indentations, some fun things about lists. As you go on in your Python scripting, it makes more sense to follow PEP 8 and do good practices in your code writing so it's legible. They talk about all kinds of fun stuff in here. I just want to bring that up as well. That's nested if statements. Let's see. Let's go back to the lesson. Yeah, drams or gills. You guys can figure that one out. It's not too bad. Yeah, if else, parents, logical operators. Yeah, Boolean, the true or false stuff is really helpful if you're doing surveys. A lot of surveys, you could do true or false and give it points, and then add up the points to do something at the back end, so a user could score a certain value. But the whole thing about true or false, where 1 is true and 0 is false, it becomes extremely helpful if you're certain functions that you run, like find, will give you like a -1 if it doesn't find anything. Well, if it's not true or false, it didn't find anything. So because technically that's true, right? Because it didn't find anything, so it's kind of cool. But you can get really deep with the Booleans and use them in all kinds of fun ways too. I'm excited to see what everyone comes up with for the group lab. It's just or the individual lab. The individual lab, of course, is you go into a roller coaster, a theme park, Python Rocks amusement park, and this is basically the code's written. You can just cut and paste this, and put if else is in front of it, and you're almost done. Here's all your variable names. Here's your logic, and that's what they equal. That's pretty not too bad. But you learn how to read requirements too, and things like that quicker. The more code you write, the faster you get at it, right? But that's about it. Flip back to the color maker, the group lab. Ands and ors are pretty powerful because if we didn't do this, we need another elif statement. So instead of 3 elif statements, we'd have 6. But in reality, it's doing the same thing. It's just a little cleaner. If red and blue or blue and red doesn't matter, it's still going to make purple. So it's just a cleaner way to do it. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording, then I'll ask if there's any questions. Yes, I want to